Over 90% of real estate investors have admitted to losing big money in real estate. And 42% of them said they lost that money because they bought a property they shouldn't have. But with these tips I'm going to share with you today, I hope to save you from major financial pain. Hey there, and welcome back to my channel, Brick by Brick Wealth. My name is Casey Franchini, and I am your guide to making smarter real estate investment decisions. The easiest thing to do is buy a bad investment. Heck, anyone can do it, and people do it every single day. But if you want to save yourself time, money, and headache, you'll need to avoid buying certain types of properties. So today, I'm going to break down exactly what types of properties to avoid and what you do when you run across them. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I'm going to tell you exactly what types of properties I look for to add to my own real estate investment portfolio. All right, let's get into it. But first, let me get a sip of my iced tea. The first type of property I would never buy are old homes, and I'm talking early 1900s homes. While these properties are super cute and packed with tons of charm like those Victorian or Craftsman homes, the problem is they're just old. And with old comes issues. The biggest problems with these old homes are the foundations. A lot of these houses were built with building codes and materials that just don't meet today's standards. Foundation slippage, crumbling, or even just downright failure are super common in early 1900s homes. The cost of repairing foundation issues is often astronomical and sometimes costs more than the original purchase of the home itself. Another reason why I would never buy a super old home is because of the plumbing and electrical. In super old homes, you're going to find tons of galvanized pipes which rust, break, and leak. Many early 1900s homes also have knob and tube electrical, which is one of the leading causes for house fires. And if you're a multi-family property owner, you're likely paying the utility bills yourself. And the early 1900s homes have poor insulation, causing your bill to be significantly higher than newer homes. I recently talked to a potential tenant while I was showing her our house we were renting out, and she asked me how much the average utility bill was. When I explained to her it would be about $150, $175, she was relieved. She said she had just been living in a house that was very old, and her utility bill was $500 a month. Let me tell you, this was a small 3-1 property, not some massive 4,000 square foot house. I would also never buy a long-term rental property in a flood zone. I might consider buying a short-term rental property in a flood zone if it made me a substantial amount of money. If you see a property sitting around on the market for a very long time, type that address into the FEMA.gov flood map and see for yourself if maybe the reason why it's sitting is because it's in a flood zone. Those properties, 99% of the time, will sell for less than the neighboring properties that are not in a flood zone. One of the most significant costs for properties that are in a flood zone are the extra home insurance premiums you have to pay on top of your typical home insurance. Home insurance as it is going up across the country. If you own a home, I'm sure you felt the high home insurance rates too. Now imagine tacking on an extra $2,000 a year for flood insurance. A lot of times that makes your cash flow negligible. I would also never buy the biggest house in the neighborhood. Now, when you're looking at potential real estate investments, it might seem appealing to snap up the best looking home in the neighborhood, but it's not a good idea, and let me tell you why. First of all, the primary issue for buying the biggest home in the neighborhood is that the value is actually capped by the surrounding property's value. There is only so much that nicer, bigger, and better is going to get you for the price. See, residential properties get their value by comps, aka comparable properties for sale in the surrounding neighborhood. So if the property you're buying is significantly different in terms of size, upgrades, and amenities, it may be difficult to find buyers who are willing to pay that premium when there are other homes nearby that are pretty good comparatively, and they cost a lot less. I see a lot of turnkey companies taking advantage of new investors like this. You'll find a C-class neighborhood, and if you don't know what a C-class neighborhood is, you want to check out my other video linked below, where I talk about the differences between A, B, C, and D-class neighborhoods. Anyway, I see a lot of real estate turnkey companies selling A-quality neighborhoods, amazing flipped, creme de la creme, brand new build properties amongst these shack D-class or C-class neighborhoods. What you'll see online for sale is a picture of a brand new, beautiful white house with a front porch, and the property value is a lot higher than the surrounding homes around it. And if you were to zoom out and look at the entire neighborhood, you would realize that you're buying a mansion among shacks. The price point is way higher than what the surrounding homes in the neighborhood are going for. And the reality is, it's going to take you a very long time for that property to hit that value again after it's been used and lived in. Even with the best house in a lesser valued neighborhood, your investment in high-end finishes or expansive renovations might not give you a proportional increase in property value. Houses like this that are overcapitalized will usually sit on the market for a very long time. The sellers won't get the amount of money they thought they would get for it. And my question for you is, will you be the sucker that buys it? I hope not. I also would never buy flipped houses. I have once before and I regret it almost every single day. If I sold any properties in my portfolio, that for sure, that house would be the one I sell first. And I tell Blake that almost every time we have a problem. See, the biggest issue with flipped houses has to do with the quality of work that was done on the property. Flippers are in the business of making money. They're not in the business of providing the highest quality of work because that would cost too much. It would hurt their bottom line. Unfortunately, a lot of buyers are uninformed and they see pretty and they pay top dollar. I haven't really been in a flip that I think has been done well. I'm sure there are quality flips out there, so flippers, please don't hate me in the comments. I just personally haven't seen one. Since flippers make most of their money based on the way a property looks, they're likely putting a lot of their capital into the parts of the renovation that make the property look good. Us investors who buy properties to keep for the long term, we need quality craftsmanship and quality materials, or it's going to end up costing us 10 times in the future, constantly redoing things over and over again. And it would be a better idea if we just did it right the first time. I used a flipping contractor once on one of my properties that we rehabbed, and he did the bathroom twice. I think the contractor was mad at me because I knew more about building properties and doing renovations than he did. And I think that's where a lot of new investors and frankly, new homeowners get a lot of things wrong. And when the contractor is done, they say, hey, it looks great. Let me give you a check. They don't really understand how to evaluate a renovation job. If you walk into a flipped property and right away you see issues with the way that cosmetics were done, just imagine the problems and the corners that were cut that are behind the walls. The first thing that I look for when I'm analyzing a flipped property is all the things behind the scenes. Again, flipped properties are meant to look great. The cosmetics are nice, but what they usually don't put the money into renovating is the electrical, the plumbing, the roof, the window sills. I can't tell you how many times I have seen painted over wood rot and termite damage because it's not cost effective for the flipper to replace the wood damage and paint it. No one's going to notice or look that hard at it, so they just paint it over. Another risk with buying flipped properties is unpermitted work. A lot of times flippers use the cheapest labor, and that doesn't always include working with licensed contractors. Unlicensed electricians and plumbers don't want to get their work inspected, and frankly, flippers also don't want the time and expense of having a home inspector come to look at their job. So you don't really know if the work behind the walls was done to code when you buy a flipped property. Now, if they've pulled permits, great. And you can check for that at the city. So if you do see a property and you say, Casey, this house looks amazing, it's flipped and I want to buy it. Here's my pro tip. Don't just get a home inspector to look at the home. Get a contractor. I look at several home inspections every single week for my students. And over the years, home inspection reports have gotten more and more watered down. Home inspectors are afraid they're going to get sued. So a lot of times their reports don't report squat. Getting a licensed contractor to come look at your home and really give that unbiased opinion when they're not going to get sued for their answer is a much better deal, in my opinion, than the professional home inspection. I'm not saying don't get a home inspection. I'm saying get a home inspection, but also have a contractor come check it out as well. And see if you can get a property disclosure report from the seller. I know the rules that the seller does not legally need to require one if they have not lived in the house 2 out of the past 5 years, and that is what they'll tell you. But if they have completely renovated the property, there is no reason why they can't provide one to you now. I also never buy houses on major streets. They might initially seem like a good idea because of their location and everyone is going to be able to see the for rent sign or see the for sale sign in the yard. Visibility is good, right? But there are a lot of downsides when it comes to buying properties on major streets. The biggest problem is street noise. Noise pollution from a property can go from mildly annoying to just downright unbearable. And if you own a property on a major street with road traffic, you're going to see a higher increased turnover with your tenants. There are certain streets that I drive by all the time on the way to my rental properties, and I'm consistently seeing the same ones for rent over and over again throughout the years. If you're looking at buying a house on a major street, check exactly where it is on the major street. Is there a bus stop in the front yard of your property? Or are you close to the street light where you're going to have backed up traffic piling up in front of your house at the end of the workday? Houses on major streets are also a never for this other reason. It is a big safety risk. If you rent to tenants that have kids and the kid runs out in the street to get his ball and gets hit by a car, bad news for you. Not only that, houses on major streets are more likely to be prone for break-ins, vehicle theft, because it's an easy getaway for the bad guy. But yeah, houses are cheaper to buy on major streets, and there's a reason for it. I would also never buy a house adjacent to a commercial or industrial area. I had a student interested in a house once in Oklahoma City. The numbers looked great, the photos looked great, it seemed that the property had been well taken care of. But when the realtor did a drive-by, and I looked at the map and I see what is going on around the property, I saw that there was an actual legitimate automotive repair company literally right next door. Imagine having bought that property, especially as an out-of-state investor, and not known that you were adjacent to a repair shop. It would be hard to rent, very hard. And hard to resell, very hard. I was also in a home once checking it out, and I walk into the master bedroom and I can see the McDonald's sign out the master bedroom window. That house is a hard no for that reason only. When you're looking at buying real estate investment properties, you need to look at the home through the eyes of the potential tenant. What are they going to see that's going to make them want to rent or not rent your property? Another never for me is I never buy properties that don't already have HVAC ductwork in place. It costs a lot of money to put in a central air conditioning system. And usually you don't see the missing cost of that reflected in the asking price. And don't assume that you can get ductwork put in. A lot of older homes, especially ones built pre-1950s that weren't constructed with HVAC ductwork in the attic, have shallow attic spaces, and ductwork can't fit all the way to both sides of the house. So even if you wanted to fork out the dollars to put a system in place, it's not going to be feasible, and you're going to be left with doing mini splits or window units, which aren't as effective and cost effective. Most homeowners, if you're trying to resell their property, is going to see your non-central air conditioned property as a disadvantage, and they're going to offer you less. Just like you're about to offer less on their property that doesn't have central air. Same thing's going to happen to you in the future. Besides the cost of putting in a central system and adding ductwork, don't forget the extra hidden cost. They're going to have to open up ceilings and walls, and there's going to be tons of drywall and paint repair that's going to need to be done. Next up, I also never buy properties that have fire or water damage. If you buy one of these properties and you are new to real estate investing and you don't know what you're doing, you'll be buying that property with an open checkbook. There's a reason why that property hasn't sold yet, and if it seems like a good deal to you, it might actually be a money pit in disguise. Repairing water damaged properties takes time, money, and experience. Have you ever gone in an attic and seen it painted white? If you have, then that is a fire damaged property. I would 100% ask your realtor to ask a listing agent, to ask the seller if there had been a fire in the attic, if it was reported to an insurance agency, and if it had gotten clearance from a fire inspector. You'll need to ask if permits were pulled. And you'll need to ask, is the property even insurable after a fire? You'd hate to buy it and then find out you can't get home insurance. But even beyond the issues we just mentioned regarding fire damaged properties, fire smell can linger and it can severely damage the HVAC system. My next door neighbor's house had a fire several years ago, and the fire department poured so much water on it, the property not only had fire damage, but also water damage. It was a flipped property. They had to renovate the entire thing all over again, and they tried to salvage the brand new HVAC system they had just installed. Well, 7 or 8 years later, the neighbors are still having problems with their HVAC, and there's an HVAC repair guy out there all the time for a brand new system. All right, now if you've stuck with me this long, then you're getting special treatment today. Earlier in the video, I told you that I would let you in on a little secret. I would tell you the exact type of properties that I look to add to my portfolio. Because remember, I want easy properties, low maintenance, and tenants that take care of my house, pay rent, and stay forever. So get out your pen and paper. All right, you ready? It's grandma houses. That's right. You heard me say it correctly. I buy grandma houses. I look for houses that have been lived in by the same person forever, for 20, 30 years. Why? Because grandma wanted things done the right way. She would hire licensed HVAC technicians, licensed electricians, licensed plumbers, and she would pay premium for the best companies in the area to do work on her house. Grandma got things done the right way. Grandma also loved her house. It was desirable, and she stayed there for a very long time because the floor plan was good, the location was good, it was safe. It had all the things a desirable property has. The best types of properties have the best layouts. It goes beyond just square footage and number of bedrooms and bathrooms. Best types of houses are in prime locations. The best types of houses have been well kept. If you're looking at the property sales history of any given house and you see that it's changed ownership every 2 years, I simply would just pass on the property. Something is off. Something is wrong with the house. All right, thank you so much for joining me today. If you found any of these things helpful, please do all the things. Hit like, subscribe, leave a comment, and ring the bell to be notified when I put out more videos on how to make real estate investing easy and awesome. Do you have any questions or your own recommendations on what types of properties to buy? Let's discuss them in the comments below. Until next time, keep building your wealth brick by brick.